My name is Ava Hargrove and I just turned 19. Last Saturday night, my birthday party was still going strong when my dad pulled me aside and whispered low enough that nobody else could hear, "Tomorrow morning you're gonna sign some paperwork for Uncle Denny. Just a formality, sweetheart. Nothing to worry about." I smiled. I hugged him. Then I slipped away to the back bedroom, opened my laptop and quietly made sure that everything my grandparents had ever left me, the lake house, the savings account, the investment portfolio, was sitting locked behind a legal wall that nobody in my family could touch. The irrevocable trust my grandparents set up 7 years ago was already in place, and I had signed my acceptance of it 3 days prior, the moment I turned 19 and was legally old enough to do so. The next morning, my parents, my little brother Cody, and my Uncle Denny found out that the lake house at Millhaven Cove, the savings and the investment accounts, all of it, was protected by a legal structure they couldn't undo. My dad went pale. My uncle, who had already signed a sales agreement with a developer for property he had absolutely zero legal right to sell, got on the phone with a lawyer before the coffee was even done brewing. Before I tell you what happened next, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Drop your city and what time it is where you are in the comments. I genuinely love knowing where y'all are listening from. Now let me take you back 7 years to a summer at Millhaven Cove, when my grandfather told me something I didn't fully understand until the night of my birthday party. The summer I turned 12, my grandpa Earl Hargrove picked me up in his old F-150 and drove me 45 minutes out to Millhaven Cove in rural Tennessee. The house sat maybe 100 yards back from the water, surrounded by old-growth cedar trees so thick the afternoon light came through in strips. The front porch leaned a little to the left. The screen door whined when you opened it. Inside, it smelled like wood smoke and something sweet I could never quite put my finger on. Maybe it was just the cedar soaking into everything after decades. "Grab that end," Grandpa Earl said, hoisting a rotted deck board. We spent the whole morning replacing planks on the back deck. He didn't rush me, not once. He showed me how to press a thumb into the wood to feel for soft spots. "If it gives," he said, "it's done." Like he was talking about something more than lumber. After lunch, Grandma Ruth made chicken salad sandwiches and sweet tea on the kitchen table Grandpa had built the year they got married. She sat me out on the porch and we watched the lake until the light turned amber and everything went quiet. That evening, Grandpa wiped his hands on a rag and sat down beside me on the steps. "This place stays in the family," he said. "But here's something most people never figure out, Ava. Family ain't always just the people who share your last name. Family is whoever shows up." I was 12. I thought he was being poetic. Maybe talking about one of his old stories. He wasn't. That whole summer, I drove out to Millhaven every weekend with my mom or caught a ride with Grandpa. I learned which circuit breaker tripped during thunderstorms, how to patch the screen on the back windows where the well pump made that grinding noise when it needed priming. Grandma Ruth taught me where she kept the spare keys, both sets, including the one taped inside the back cover of her King James Bible. Grandpa walked me along the property line one evening and showed me the iron stakes he'd driven himself decades ago to mark the corners. That was the summer I turned 12. That was the summer my grandfather started planning for a future he hoped I would be strong enough to step into. I think about that a lot, how much faith it takes to plan for someone who's still just a kid. He didn't know exactly who I'd become. He just knew who I already was. The girl who asked about the roof before she asked about the price. He bet on that. He bet everything on that. And I hope I made it worth it. Back home in Clarksburg, the air felt different. Our house was a 4-bedroom colonial on the north side of town. My dad's restaurant supply business kept us comfortable, but not warm the way Millhaven was warm. My brother Cody, who was 10 at the time, had the biggest bedroom because my mom had just redone it. Gray walls, a fancy gaming setup, a desk lamp that probably cost more than my entire bookshelf. My room still had carpet from before we moved in. Cabin conversations started at dinner, casual at first. "Pop's place is just sitting out there eating money," my dad Marcus said one night, cutting into his pork chop. "Property taxes, insurance, maintenance. It's a sinkhole. We should liquidate it, reinvest somewhere smarter." My mom Sheila nodded without looking up. Makes sense. Grandpa said the house stays in the family, I said. Marcus laughed. Not a mean laugh, worse. A dismissive one, the kind that makes you feel like a little kid who just said something cute and incorrect. Ava, you were 12. He was just being nice. Nobody asked me anything else. Conversation drifted to Cody's travel baseball team making the state tournament. Later that night, clearing the dinner plates, I found a glossy brochure folded under the grocery list on the counter. Millhaven Shoreline Partners, LLC. Luxury waterfront development. Premium lakefront acquisitions, call for pricing. There was a handwritten cell number in the margin. Not my dad's handwriting. Uncle Denny's. I put it back exactly where I found it. Stairs, I sat on my bed and stared at the ceiling. Someone was already measuring my grandparents' home in dollar signs. Someone had gotten there before my grandfather was even in the ground. Grandpa Earl passed away 2 years later, right after Thanksgiving. I was 14. The funeral was on a Wednesday, heavy overcast, that kind of Tennessee cold that gets in your bones. I sat in the second row holding his handkerchief, blue plaid, frayed at the corners, smelling faintly of cedar and motor oil. The reception, I noticed my dad Marcus and his brother Denny huddled near the back by the coffee urn. Denny had a manila folder tucked under his arm. Marcus kept nodding slowly, the way he does when he's already decided something. Caught one sentence. We gotta move on this before the estate gets tied up. They were talking about the property. The funeral. I was 14 years old and powerless to do anything about it except file it away. 2 years after that, Grandma Ruth got sick. Diagnosed in February, gone by August. The fastest, most unfair thing I had ever watched happen. The last time I visited her at the hospital, she held my hand with a grip that surprised me, stronger than I expected from someone so frail. The house is yours, Ava, she whispered. You hear me? Don't you let them take it. Promise me. I promise, Grandma. She squeezed once, closed her eyes. At the reception after her funeral, I heard my dad say to my mom, he was in the kitchen, not trying to be quiet, now we can finally get the property sorted out. He said it the same way you say it's finally supposed to stop raining. Like something that had been pressing down on him had lifted. That same night, Uncle Denny called. I was in the hallway and I could hear my dad pacing in the garage, his voice lighter than it had been in weeks. Yeah, no question. Let's get it moving. I stood there holding a glass of water, cold down to the bottom of my stomach. My grandmother's death wasn't a loss to them. It was a green light. I didn't cry that night. I made a different kind of decision. I just didn't know how to execute it yet. Between 16 and 19, Millhaven became my quiet act of resistance. Every single Saturday morning, I drove out there in the used Civic I'd bought with babysitting money and weekend shifts at the coffee shop. I patched the porch screen. I sealed the drafty window in the guest room. I swept cedar needles off the roof every October because Grandpa taught me that's how leaks start, slowly then all at once. At home, the language around Millhaven changed. It stopped being Grandma and Grandpa's place and started being the family property. Like that language had always been true. Uncle Denny started showing up for Sunday dinners more often. Sometimes with folders. Sometimes with a laptop open to Zillow and real estate comps. I tried once. Grandma wanted me to keep it. She told me so. My mom set down her fork the careful way she does before she corrects you. Your grandma was emotional at the end, honey. This is a business decision. Business. That was the word they used for everything that used to mean something. By the time I was 17, my dad started dropping hints like breadcrumbs. When you turn 19, we'll sit down as a family and sort it all out. The way he said family, I knew he meant his way. Then, on a rainy afternoon in November, I was clearing out the hall closet at the Millhaven house. Behind a stack of Grandma Ruth's quilts, the good ones, the ones she made herself, I found a sealed envelope. My name on the front in her handwriting. Inside, a single business card. Patricia Winslow, attorney at law. Below her name, in small clean type, Hargrove Family Trust. My hands were shaking so bad I nearly dropped it. Grandma knew I'd be the one cleaning out closets. Not Marcus. Not Denny. Me. I slipped the card into my wallet. I didn't call. Not yet. But I carried it everywhere. 4 months before my birthday, Patricia Winslow called me first. It was a Thursday evening in early March. I was at the kitchen table doing homework when my phone lit up with an unfamiliar local number. I almost let it go to voicemail. I'm glad I didn't. Ava, my name is Patricia Winslow. I was your grandparents' attorney for the last 8 years. Her voice was steady, like someone who chose her words on purpose and had been choosing them carefully for a very long time. There are some things I need to walk you through before you turn 19. Time is a factor here. Can you come see me this week? Alone? I said yes before I even fully understood what I was agreeing to. I went that Saturday. I told my mom I was going to the library to study. I hated lying to her, even then, even knowing what I knew about what was being planned, but I had no choice. If they found out about Patricia before I was ready, they'd find a way to work around it. Or through me. Patricia Winslow was in her early 60s, silver-streaked hair, reading glasses on a beaded chain. Her office was small and clean and smelled like old paper and black coffee. She opened a folder. 7 years ago, your grandparents came to me and established an irrevocable trust, she said. The Millhaven property, a savings account, and an investment portfolio. Combined value at current market, approximately $3.4 million. All of it is held inside the trust. You are the sole beneficiary. I felt the room tilt. The deed to the lakehouse was recorded under the trust at the county recorder's office in 2018. It has never been part of your grandparents' personal estate. Cannot go through probate. Your father and uncle have no legal claim to any of it. She slid a document across the desk. My name on the second line. Why didn't they tell my dad? I asked. Tricia paused. Your grandfather's exact words to me were, my boys will sell that house before the flowers on my casket wilt. The room was very quiet. There's one more thing, she said. In the last 30 days, someone has been making title inquiries on the Millhaven property at the county recorder's office. That was when I started paying real close attention. The following Sunday, Uncle Denny came over for dinner. After the plates were cleared, he and my dad disappeared into the garage. The door wasn't fully closed. Denny's voice, low and certain. I already signed the letter of intent with Millhaven Shoreline Partners. $850,000 Marcus. But the deal only closes if we deliver clean title. We need to record a quitclaim deed before the closing date. My dad, how do we do that? Simple. Earl and Ruth are gone. We're the surviving heirs. We file a quitclaim from the estate to us, record it, and we're done. Pause. What about Ava? Denny's answer came fast, like he'd already worked it out. She's not 19 yet. By the time she is, this is done. Closed. She'll be upset for a minute, then she'll get over it. We'll give her something for college. Maybe 75 grand. She should be thankful. I stepped back from the door. My hands were cold. Denny had already signed a letter of intent for $850,000 on a property he didn't own, backed by a trust he didn't know existed. That night I texted Patricia 2 words, "They're moving." She replied in under 5 minutes, expected. Come Saturday. We'll get everything ready. Patricia laid out the timeline on a legal pad like a battle map. The property title is already inside the trust, she said. If Denny files a quitclaim deed, the county recorder should reject it outright. The chain of title goes back to the trust recorded in 2018, not to your grandparents personally. But if he submits supporting affidavits, maybe a fraudulent heirship declaration, he could create what's called a cloud on title. That won't give him ownership, but it could tie the property up in litigation for 2 years. So I have to move first. You have to move on time. She tapped the calendar. The day you turn 19, you're a legal adult. You formally accept your role as successor beneficiary. I file a lease pendens, a public notice of legal interest, at the recorder's office first thing the next morning. That freezes the title completely. Nobody records anything against it while it's active. What do I need to do? Sign one document. I handle everything else. I drove home. Marcus was in the kitchen, all smiles. Good news, kiddo, we're throwing you a proper birthday party. Saturday night, the whole family. Big one. He grinned. 19's a big deal. I smiled back. My dad was planning my birthday party. My uncle was planning to sell my grandmother's lake house. And I was going to sit there and let them think everything was going exactly according to their schedule. I want to be real with you for a second. Sitting in my room that week knowing what was coming was genuinely one of the hardest things I've ever done. Part of me wanted to walk downstairs and just say it, Dad, I know. I know about the quitclaim deed. I know about Millhaven Shoreline Partners. I know about the $85,000 penalty clause Denny signed himself into. I know everything. But Patricia was right. If I showed my hand early, they'd pivot. They'd find a new angle, hire their own attorney, maybe try to challenge my competency or claim I'd been manipulated by an outside party. So I stayed quiet. I smiled at dinner. I helped my mom with dishes. I asked Cody about his basketball games. And I waited. And I smiled at that dinner table every single night like the world was perfectly fine. Have you ever had to stay completely silent to protect yourself, even when every part of you was screaming to speak up? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And if you haven't subscribed, you're gonna want to stick around because this is about to get real. 5 days before my birthday, my mom sat down beside me on the couch with her Let's Be Adults voice. Soft practice, just slightly rehearsed. Now that you're almost 19, Sheila said, there are some family decisions we should make together. She folded her hands in her lap. The Millhaven property costs real money to maintain. Taxes, insurance, upkeep. Your dad's business has been struggling for a while. If we sell, we could clear the debt and set up college funds for you and Cody both. Grandma wanted me to keep it. My mom's expression shifted, a flash of impatience behind the calm. Your grandma was sentimental, Ava. Sentiment doesn't pay property insurance. Right on cue, and I'm almost certain they planned this, my dad walked in. I've already got a buyer lined up, Marcus said. Good price. Fair deal. Who's the buyer? He blinked. A development group. Denny has a relationship with them. What's the company called? A longer pause. Millhaven Shoreline Partners. They're reputable. I didn't push further. I'll think about it, I said. He patted my shoulder like a man who'd just won something. That night, my brother Cody knocked on my door. He was in his basketball shorts, hair still messed up from practice, and he sat on the corner of my bed picking at a loose thread on the comforter. Ava. Yeah. Mom and Dad keep talking after I go to bed. In the kitchen, he looked at the floor. They sound nervous. Like excited nervous. What do you mean? Like when Dad's about to close a big deal, but he's not sure it's gonna come through. He looked up at me. Is something happening with the lake house? I pulled his arm. Don't worry about it, Code. He wasn't convinced. But he went to bed. 3 days before my birthday, Uncle Denny showed up unannounced. He caught me in the driveway, leaning against his car like he'd just been passing through. Denny was a real estate broker. Nothing he did was accidental. Hey, Ava. Got a few minutes? Uncle-niece talk. We sat on the front steps. He leaned in with his elbows on his knees. Here's the reality, he said. That lakefront lot alone is worth close to $1 million in today's market. I've got a buyer ready to close fast. Clean deal. And your cut is $75,000 cash straight to your college account. 75 out of 850? He smiled like I'd said something adorable. You're almost 19, Ava. 75 grand is life-changing money for someone your age. Most kids would kill for that. Whose name is on the deed, Uncle Denny? The smile froze. Just for a half second. Then it was back. Your grandparents, technically. But with them gone, it passes to the estate. To your dad and me as the heirs. That's not how it works. He stood and brushed off his jeans. Don't overthink this one. Good things don't wait. He walked to his car, and before he was even out of the neighborhood, I could see him on his phone through the rear window. That night I texted Patricia, 3 more days. She replied, stay the course. There was one more person I should tell you about. Our next-door neighbor at Millhaven Cove, a retired schoolteacher named Miss Gloria Reyes, who had been friends with my grandma for 35 years. She'd been watching all of this quietly from the outside, and she wasn't going to stay quiet forever. The night before my birthday, I drove to Millhaven alone. The road was dark, the moon out low over the tree line, the lake perfectly flat and black beneath it. I parked in the gravel lot Grandpa had leveled himself and walked up the steps. Second one still creaked, always did, and sat in the chair next to his. The air smelled like cedar resin and rain. I opened my email. Patricia had sent the complete document package, the successor beneficiary acceptance form, the trust designation confirmation, a 1-page summary of all trust terms. Everything flagged with sticky tabs, ready for my signature. At midnight, I read every page twice. Then I closed the laptop and listened to the water. Grandpa used to sit in this exact chair and say, "Patience isn't weakness, Ava girl. It's just timing." I always figured he was talking about fishing. I understand now that he was talking about this. About this exact night. Tears came without warning. Not a breakdown, just a quiet overflow I let happen. I cried because I wished it was different. I wished my dad had been the kind of man who would drive out here just to sit and watch the lake, instead of calculating what the lot would fetch per square foot. I wished my mom had asked what I wanted even once instead of telling me what was practical. I wished I didn't need a lawyer and a legal document to protect myself from the people who were supposed to protect me. But wishes don't hold up in court. Trust documents do. I wiped my face, locked the door, drove home, and set my alarm for 11:50 p.m. In 6 hours I'd turn 19. In 7, my family would find out that the Millhaven house was never theirs to take. At midnight, I opened my laptop and connected to the video call. Patricia appeared in her home office, blazer still on, desk lamp burning, reading glasses on her nose. "Ready?" she asked. "Ready." She walked me through it one more time. When I signed the acceptance form, I became the official successor beneficiary of the Hargrove family irrevocable trust. Every decision about the trust's assets from that moment forward went through me and Patricia jointly. "First thing tomorrow morning," she said, "I go to the county recorder's office when they open. I file the lease pendens, public notice that there's a legal interest pending on that property. Once it's stamped and recorded, no one can sell it, transfer it, or put any kind of lien against the title while it's active. What if they've already filed something? Then whatever they filed will get kicked back. Chain of title shows the trust recorded in 2018. Any conflicting document gets rejected on the spot." She held my gaze through the screen. "This isn't a trick, Ava. This is your grandfather's last gift to you. You just had to be old enough to accept it." The clock on my laptop read 12:07 a.m. I was 19. I was the legal beneficiary of the Hargrove family irrevocable trust. And somewhere across town, my Uncle Denny's quit-claim deed was already worthless paper. He just didn't know it yet. Here's what I pieced together later from what Patricia told me and what my dad eventually admitted. While I was signing my acceptance form at midnight, Denny was printing documents at his kitchen table. A quitclaim deed, a form that transfers property between parties. Completely legitimate when the person filing it actually owns what they're signing away. Crime when they don't. He called my dad at 11:45 p.m. Everything's ready. We file at 9. Give Ava her birthday stuff in the morning, keep her distracted. Marcus quieter. You sure about all this? Denny, Earl and Ruth are gone. We're the legal heirs. Nobody checked. Nobody's going to. But that wasn't the worst part. Denny also had a signed purchase agreement with Millhaven Shoreline Partners, $850,000, closing 30 days after the quitclaim recorded. If he couldn't deliver clean title in that window, he owed the developer a penalty of $85,000 plus damages. He'd signed that agreement 3 months ago, before he'd ever verified that the title was even in the estate. He assumed nobody had planned otherwise. He'd bet nearly $1 million on paper he didn't own. My birthday party was Saturday afternoon. The living room was packed, maybe 25 people. Family friends, some of my dad's business contacts, our neighbors from Clarksburg and Miss Gloria Reyes, who'd driven 45 minutes from Millhaven and sat near the window with a glass of sweet tea and sharp, steady eyes. There were balloons, a banner, a 3-layer cake from the bakery downtown. I smiled. I hugged people. I opened gifts. In the pocket of my cardigan, folded into a small square, was the signed acceptance form. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. It was already done. My dad stood up near the cake and tapped his glass. The room went quiet. I just want to say, Ava is officially an adult today and Sheila and I are proud of her. He let the room settle, then added, and as a family, we have some really exciting things coming up for everyone. He looked right at me and smiled. Right, Ava? Every face in the room turned toward me. Thanks, Dad, I said. Nothing more. He laughed it off and raised his glass. The room followed. From across the room, Miss Gloria touched my arm as I passed. She leaned close. Your grandma would want you to know something, she murmured. Last week, I saw your uncle at the house with 2 men in suits. They had a measuring tape. They were walking the property line. Denny had brought the developers to the property before he even had title. That's how certain he was it was going to work. After the cake, my dad stood again. This time his voice carried the whole room. I want to share something with everyone here, people who've known our family for years. He put his hand on my mom's shoulder. Our family's been through some hard times financially. Y'all know the business has struggled. But my parents, Earl and Ruth Hargrove, they left us something. The place at Millhaven Cove. He looked right at me. And as a family, we've all agreed it's time to do the responsible thing and sell it. Secure everyone's future. He nodded at me. Ava understands. She knows this is what's best for all of us. Right, sweetheart? The room waited. I set my fork on my plate. The little clink it made was the only sound. I never agreed to sell the house, Dad. His smile held, but the muscles in his jaw tightened. She's just kidding. Birthday nerves. I'm not kidding. Uncle Denny stepped forward from the doorway. Ava. Not here. Not now. I looked at him evenly. You're right, Uncle Denny. Not now. I held his gaze. The time is 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. The room went completely silent. Denny's phone buzzed in his pocket. He didn't check it. The guests started leaving after that. Quick goodbyes, tight smiles, that polite hurry people do when they can sense a storm building inside somebody else's house. I watched them go. The neighbors who'd known me since I was in pigtails. My dad's church friends who'd just watched him publicly announce something his own daughter shut down in front of everyone. It was painfully quiet in the way that only happens after something awkward and irreversible. Within 30 minutes it was just family. and Miss Gloria, who had planted herself at the kitchen table with her sweet tea and was absolutely, completely not going anywhere. My mom pulled me aside in the hallway, voice low and tight. "Do you have any idea what your father is going through? He could lose this house, Ava. The house you sleep in. And you're holding on to a weekend cabin out of stubbornness." "It's not stubbornness, Mom. We are a family. If you actually loved this family, you wouldn't need some attorney telling you what to do." The air went out of the hallway. "How do you know about my attorney?" Sheila didn't flinch. "Denny found the business card in your jacket last month when it was in the laundry pile." "Patricia Winslow." "Who is she?" My stomach dropped. Not from fear, from the realization that they'd been going through my things. Looking for leverage. Miss Gloria's voice cut through from the kitchen doorway, measured and flat. "That girl has every right to her own attorney. Ruth would have wanted exactly that." My mom spun around. "This is a family matter, Gloria. Ruth was my best friend for 35 years. Miss Gloria didn't move. "I think I know what she'd want." The silence between them could have shattered something. After Miss Gloria left, it was just the five of us. Marcus sat down at the kitchen table and folded his hands like a man presenting terms. "Here's what's happening tomorrow," he said quietly. "Denny and I go to the county office. We file the paperwork. Property sells. You get your share." "How much?" He didn't answer. Denny filled the gap from the doorway. 75,000. Same offer. I looked at my dad. "Out of 850. Marcus's jaw set. "If you fight this, you're on your own. No help with school. No living here rent-free." He let that sit. "I'm not threatening you. I'm telling you how it is. You're threatening to throw me out on my birthday. I'm asking you to be part of this family." I pushed back from the table and stood. My voice was calm even though my hands were not. "I am part of this family, Dad. I'm the part that keeps promises." I walked past Denny, past my brother Cody sitting on the stairs with his knees pulled to his chest, and I went upstairs. Closed my door. Breathed. Marcus thought his deadline was 9 a.m. at the county office. He didn't know Patricia's deadline was 8. If someone you loved ever quietly prepared something to protect you, even years before you knew you'd need it, I want to hear about it in the comments. 'Cause what I'm about to tell you next is the part that still makes me catch my breath when I think about it. At 8:03 a.m., the county recorder's office opened. A clerk in a green cardigan unlocked the front counter and turned on the desk lamp. Patricia Winslow was already standing there. She presented 2 documents, a certified copy of the Hargrove family irrevocable trust and a lease pendens notice. The clerk reviewed the chain of title, cross-referenced the parcel number, and stamped them recorded. The Millhaven property was now flagged in the public record. Any future recording attempt would show a pending legal interest. Hargrove Family Irrevocable Trust, Patricia Winslow trustee, Ava Hargrove sole beneficiary. Patricia called me at 8:21 a.m. "It's recorded. Whatever they bring in this morning will be rejected." I was eating cereal at the kitchen table. My dad was upstairs getting dressed. My mom was pouring coffee. Normal morning sounds. Closet door. Running water. The scrape of a hanger on a rod. At 8:45, Marcus came downstairs in his button-down shirt. His bank meeting shirt, the one he wore when he needed to look like things were under control. Denny was right behind him with his folder. "Back by lunch," Marcus said, grabbing his keys. He paused in the doorway and looked at me. Something in my face, maybe. Then he turned and walked out. I rinsed my bowl, dried it, set it in the cabinet, and waited. I'll never know exactly what their faces looked like at that counter. But Patricia stayed at the recorder's office on purpose, and she told me everything later. 9:12 a.m., Denny approached the window and slid the quitclaim deed across with the practiced confidence of a man who'd done hundreds of real estate closings. Clerk typed in the parcel number. Read the screen. Typed again. Stopped. Sir, I can't record this document. Denny leaned forward. Excuse me. The title to this property is held inside the Hargrove family irrevocable trust. It's been recorded that way since 2018. There's also a lease pendens filed this morning. That's not possible. My parents owned that property. Sir, the deed was transferred to the trust 7 years ago. Chain of title is clear. This quitclaim doesn't match the current ownership record. Marcus stepped up beside Denny. There's no trust. Our parents never mentioned a trust to us. Clerk looked between them. I'd suggest you contact the trustee listed on the filing. A Patricia Winslow. Denny's hand went flat on the counter. His face went the color of old paper. Patricia's name, the name off the business card they'd found in my things, was now in the public record. Permanently. Marcus turned to Denny slowly. You said this was simple. I didn't know about any trust. You're a real estate broker, Denny. How do you not pull title first? Denny opened his mouth. Closed it. Patricia, seated in the waiting area near the door, watched them walk outside. She didn't say a single word. She didn't have to. My phone rang at 9:29 a.m. What did you do? Marcus's voice was tight, shaking. I could hear a parking lot behind him, a car idling. I accepted what Grandpa and Grandma left me. That's all. You went behind our backs to some lawyer we've never heard of. Patricia Winslow has been the trust attorney for 7 years, Dad. You just never asked. Silence. Heavy breathing. This is my parents' house, Ava. I'm their son. I kept my voice even. They loved you. They just didn't trust you with it. The longest silence of my life. Counted the seconds. He spoke. We'll fight this. The trust is irrevocable. That means even I can't dissolve it. There's nothing to fight. You don't know what you're talking about. I do, Dad. I've had 4 months to learn. He hung up without saying goodbye. I set the phone on the porch railing. My hands were shaking. Not from anger. From the weight of having said those words to my own father. The man who taught me to ride a bike when I was 7. The same man who just tried to sell my grandmother's home. I sat there until the shaking stopped. Took a while. Long enough that the neighbors' kids finished playing outside and the street went quiet. Long enough for the sun to drop below the roofline across the street and the light to change. Then my phone rang again. Unknown number. Miss Hargrove, my name is Brandon Tice. I'm the acquisitions director at Millhaven Shoreline Partners. His voice was flat and corporate. We have a signed letter of intent with Dennis Hargrove for the Millhaven property. He guaranteed clean title. We've just been informed there's a lease pendens recorded against the parcel. That's correct. Can you clarify the situation? My uncle does not own that property. He never did. The house and land have been held inside an irrevocable trust since 2018. I'm the sole beneficiary. Papers shifting on the other end. He represented himself as the legal heir. Representation doesn't create ownership, Mr. Tice. I'd suggest speaking with your own attorneys, and with my uncle about the agreement he signed. A pause. Is there any possibility the trust would consider a sale? We deal directly with the trust. Competitive offer. The property is not for sale. He hung up. Within 2 hours, Millhaven Shoreline Partners had filed against Denny for breach of contract, the $85,000 penalty plus actual damages. That same afternoon, Patricia called me with one more piece of information. Ava, the quitclaim deed that Denny tried to file, it had a notary stamp on it. I asked the recorder's office to pull a copy before they rejected it. She paused carefully. The stamp doesn't match any registered notary in this county, or any adjacent county. Closed my eyes. That's a felony. In Tennessee? Yes. Filing a fraudulent instrument and falsifying a notarization. Both felonies. My uncle didn't just try to steal my grandmother's house. He committed 2 crimes to do it. My dad came home at 2 in the afternoon looking like a man carrying an invisible weight that had just doubled. He sat across from me at the dining room table and stared at the wood for a long moment. I'm going to lose this house. His voice was hollowed out. The restaurant supply business is underwater. 80,000 to the bank. I thought Millhaven was the only way out. I know you're struggling. I'm sorry about the business. Then help us. The house was never your way out. It was theirs. And they gave it to me. My mom came in from the kitchen. They were elderly, Ava. They weren't thinking clearly about what was fair to the whole family. They were thinking clearly enough to set up a legal trust 7 years before they died. Marcus slammed his palm on the table. A voice came through my phone. I'd called Patricia before he walked in and left the line open. Not to trap him. To save time. Mr. Hargrove. Tricia's voice was even. Contesting an irrevocable trust established by legally competent grantors with full documentation, properly witnessed and notarized, recorded years before their deaths, that will cost you far more in legal fees than the property is worth. I'd strongly advise against it. Marcus looked at the phone, then at me, and for the first time I saw something in his face I had never seen before. Not anger. Recognition. The slow, painful dawning of understanding. 2 hours later, Uncle Denny called the house. My dad took it in the living room. I was close enough to hear through the wall. Denny, Millhaven Shoreline is suing me. 85,000 in penalties plus damages. Marcus, they're calling it fraud. Marcus cold. Did you forge that notary stamp? I found a stamp in my desk from an old transaction. I didn't think. You're a licensed real estate broker, Denny. You know exactly what that is. I need help. I can't help you. I'm barely keeping my own head above water. Don't call here again until you've talked to a criminal defense attorney. He hung up. I heard him sit down on the couch. The springs settled. Then nothing. I went upstairs. Cody was in his doorway. Is Uncle Denny in trouble? Yeah, buddy. He is. Is Dad? I sat on the edge of his bed. Dad made bad choices. Denny made worse ones. Cody nodded. He was 17 and shaken and trying his best to look like he had it together. I stayed for a minute, then went to my room, sat by the window and watched a dog walker pass on the street below. The world just kept going. I didn't feel like I'd won anything. I felt like someone who'd walked through a fire and hadn't checked yet what the smoke had ruined. The fallout took about 3 weeks to settle into its new shape, and every single piece of it landed loudly. Millhaven Shoreline Partners' lawsuit against Denny moved forward quickly. Their attorneys were not messing around. 85,000 in contract penalties plus 60,000 in alleged damages for time spent, costs incurred, and deals they had to walk away from because of the cloud on title. The Tennessee Real Estate Commission suspended his broker's license pending the outcome of the criminal referral from the recorder's office. His income stopped. His reputation in the local market, a market where everyone absolutely knows everyone, was destroyed. In a small town, a public court filing might as well be a billboard on the highway. Word travels whether you want it to or not. My dad sold the restaurant supply business at a significant loss. Not enough to clear the bank debt entirely, but enough to negotiate a restructured payment plan and avoid foreclosure on the house. The house in Clarksburg stayed. Barely. It was close. My mom went back to work for the first time since Cody was born. She took a position managing the pharmacy on Magnolia Drive, the same chain where she'd worked before my brother was born. She didn't talk about it much. When neighbors asked, she said she wanted to stay busy. Nobody believed that. But nobody pushed. That's the thing about small towns and hard truths. Everybody knows and everybody has the grace to let you save a little face. Most of the time, anyway. Town knew. Not all the details, but the shape of it. Earl and Ruth Hargrove's sons tried to sell her lake house, and the granddaughter stopped them. That was the version circulating at the diner, at church, at the Sunoco on Route 9. Some people called me brave. Some called me cold. I didn't correct either group. Miss Gloria brought me a peach pie one afternoon and set it on the kitchen counter without making a whole thing of it. "Your parents made their choices," she said. "But they're still your people. Don't carry their shame. That belongs to them." My brother Cody texted me a few nights later from a friend's house. "Simple. I don't understand everything that happened, but I'm sorry they put you through it. You okay?" I stared at that for a long time before I wrote back. "Getting there. Come out to Millhaven sometime. I'll make dinner." I drove to Millhaven on a Sunday morning in late October, about 5 weeks after everything broke open. The dogwoods along the county road had turned, burgundy and rust against the gray water. I unlocked the front door with the key Grandpa gave me when I was 14. "In case you ever need to get in when we're not here," he'd said. I understand now that he meant permanently. The house smelled exactly the same. Cedar and old books and that faint sweet something I'd spent years trying to name. I think it's the wood itself. Decades of seasons soaked into the walls. I walked every room. Kitchen table Grandpa built, level, solid, not a wobble in it. Grandma's bookshelves, still arranged by color just the way she liked it. The bedroom where she used to read to me when I was small. The back porch where we'd watch the lake together until we ran out of things to say, and that was perfectly fine. In the desk drawer by the front window, I found an envelope. My name on the front in Grandpa Earl's handwriting. Tricia had told me it would be there. She'd been holding on to that information until the trust was fully settled. It was a letter. 1 page. Blue ink, his handwriting getting looser toward the bottom, the way it always did when he was tired or emotional or both. He said he knew his sons would try to sell the place. He didn't blame them for it. Marcus was his boy and he loved him. But Marcus never understood the difference between something that has value and something that is valuable. Those were his exact words. Something that has value and something that is valuable. He said he chose me not because I was perfect or because I was the oldest or because of any formal thing. He chose me because when I was 12 years old and he walked me through this house, I asked him whether the roof needed patching before I ever once asked what the place might be worth. The last line said, "Take care of it. Took care of you first." I folded the letter carefully, the same way you fold something you know you're going to read again many times. I sat on the porch in his chair. The lake was so still I could see the cedar trees reflected in the surface like a mirror. Like the world had gone quiet to let me feel whatever I needed to feel. I sat there a long time. Not really thinking. Just being present in the place that was always supposed to be mine, finally understanding the full shape of what my grandparents had built around me. They hadn't just left me a house. They'd spent years quietly constructing a shelter before I even knew I'd need one. And they'd done it without telling a single soul because they understood that the moment they did, it would be taken from me. I breathed in the cedar air. And for the first time in a long time, I felt completely still. Patricia called me the following week with the final update. The lease pendens had been released. No active threat to the title, property records showing the trust as sole and unencumbered owner. Clean. No clouds. No liens. Just the Hargrove family irrevocable trust and my name inside it. As for Denny, he'd settled with Millhaven Shoreline Partners. The $85,000 penalty paid out of a personal loan. Criminal referral from the recorder's office was still active with the DA's office. Felony charges were a real possibility. "And there's one more thing," Patricia said. "In the trust documents, your grandparents designated a separate education fund. $100,000 earmarked specifically for your college and graduate school expenses. It's been accruing interest for 7 years. My throat got tight. Current balance is just over $114,000. The same figure they'd been dangling in front of me like it was a favor. My grandparents had already set it aside, years ago, quietly, without telling a soul. Ava? You still there? Yeah. My voice cracked just a little. I'm here. They would be proud of you. I just kept a promise. I enrolled at East Tennessee State that January. Environmental science with a concentration in watershed management, because if a lake house is going to be in your family forever, you might as well understand what keeps lakes alive. Campus is 35 minutes from Millhaven. Closer than my parents' house in Clarksburg. On my housing forms, under permanent address, I wrote the Millhaven address for the first time in my life. Felt like something clicking into place. Like the last piece of a puzzle that had been sitting on a table for 7 years, waiting for me to be old enough to put it where it belonged. I asked my parents to meet me at a coffee shop on Birch Street, neutral ground, somewhere public and calm. They came together. Marcus in a flannel I hadn't seen in years, one of Grandpa's actually. My mom with her purse clutched to her side the way she does when she's nervous. I waited until the drinks were on the table. I love you both, I said. I need you to hear that first, because what I'm about to say might not sound like it. My mom's jaw tightened. She nodded. The lake house is not for sale. Not now. Not in 5 years. Not ever. I'm not going to apologize for protecting a promise I made to my grandmother. A promise she trusted me with because she didn't believe anyone else would keep it. Marcus stared into his coffee. I'm not cutting you out of my life. But if we're going to have any kind of relationship going forward, it has to be built on something real. Not on what I can hand over financially. Not on guilt. Not on the assumption that I owe you something because you raised me. Sheila started to say something. I held up a hand gently. You went through my things. You threatened to throw me out. You announced in front of 25 people that I'd agreed to something I had never agreed to. If we're going to move forward, that has to be acknowledged. Silence. A long one. Marcus finally looked up. His voice was rough, like something scraped over gravel. I don't know how to fix this. You don't have to fix it today. I stood. I left enough cash for all 3 coffees. I'll call you Sunday. He nodded. One small nod. I walked out into the cold Tennessee air. That was the most I could ask for right now. And it was enough. Cody drove out to Millhaven on a Sunday afternoon in December unannounced, with a grocery bag and that oversized university hoodie he'd worn since 8th grade. I brought stuff for Chili, he said. Hope that's okay. That's more than okay. We cooked together and ate on the back porch with blankets over our laps. The lake was flat and silver gray. A heron stood in the shallows near the dock, still as a painting. Cody was quiet for a while. Then, I didn't know any of it was happening. They never told me. I know. Am I the reason they did all this? He was staring at the water. Like, because they spent money on me and not you, and then needed. No. I said it immediately. You were a kid. We both were. You didn't choose any of it. He nodded, but he kept staring at the lake. It's really pretty out here, he said finally. Grandma said the same thing every single time she sat in that chair. He looked over at the empty chair beside mine, the one with the armrest Grandpa had sanded smooth. Can I come back? Whenever you want. He leaned his head on my shoulder for a second. Then he sat back up and picked up his bowl of chili and looked out at the water. We didn't talk about lawyers or deeds or what our parents did. We talked about his basketball season, about the heron, about whether the dock needed new planks come spring. The house didn't just protect property. It made space for something new to start. Early December, 6 in the morning. I'm on the back porch with a cup of coffee, watching the mist lift off Millhaven Cove. The cedar trees are silhouettes against a pale pink sky. Somewhere out on the water, a loon calls. 2 long notes. Then quiet. I want to say something to you, whoever's listening to this. I didn't win against my family. There's no winning when the people who hurt you are the same people who were supposed to protect you. You don't get a trophy for surviving something that should never have happened. But I kept a promise. And for the first time in my life, I'm standing somewhere that belongs to me. Not because I fought for it, well, a little because I fought for it, but mostly because 2 people loved me enough to plan for exactly this moment. They saw the storm building before I even knew to look at the sky. They built the shelter before I knew I'd need one. My grandparents couldn't stop my dad from being desperate or my uncle from being greedy. They couldn't make Marcus a better father or keep Denny from making choices he's going to be living with for years. But they could make sure I had ground to stand on. Literally. I think about Grandpa Earl's letter often. The difference between something that has value and something that is valuable. This house has both. But only one can be measured in dollars. And my family spent 2 years focused on the wrong one. They saw the price per square foot and missed the 35 years of Sunday mornings soaked into the porch wood. They saw the appraisal and missed the kitchen table he built with his own hands. They calculated the return on investment and completely lost sight of the reason my grandparents built a life here in the first place. I sip my coffee. The mist clears. The lake goes from gray to blue. A fish breaks the surface somewhere near the dock. A wood duck paddles out from behind the cattails. Everything is quiet in the particular way that Millhaven is quiet, not empty, just unhurried. Like time moves at a different speed here. Maybe that's why my grandparents loved it. Maybe that's why they fought to make sure it stayed. If you're out there right now and it feels like nobody's in your corner, I want you to hear this. Sometimes the people who protect you aren't standing right in front of you. Sometimes they planned for you years and years ago quietly without making a production of it. They set things in motion when you were still a kid who didn't know you'd need protecting. And sometimes all you have to do is show up, sign the paper, and keep the promise they trusted you with. Peace doesn't come from revenge. I promise you that. Comes from standing on something solid and knowing it's real. That's what I have now. That's what they gave me. Before you go, I want to ask you something. If you could protect one thing in your life, just one thing, whether it's a place or a person or a memory or a promise, what would it be? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one, even the long ones, especially the long ones. And if this story hit you somewhere real, share it with somebody who needs to hear it today. Subscribe if you want to be here for the next one. I'll see you then.